hit it again, and turn it off. The number 2 button is going to work a little differently than 2 through 6 up there. Number 2 here, I'm going to make it a toggle. So again, it's going to be on and off. Up there at the other button station, 2 through 6 are going to control your house light intensity, so that if you have something going on, you want to be able to dim the lights, you can just use the buttons if you want. So these two, this button station and in the other vestibule, they're the same. They're going to be toggles. The ones at the booth is going to be a work light toggle and then house light intensities. Not a huge
this
deal.
one, like if you wanted to go 50%, you actually hit it multiple times?
No, this one won't. This is going to be all on or all off.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But the intensity is still controlled up there. So if you have it 50% up there, if you turn them off here and then turn them back on, will they come back up to 50%?
So the system is going to work on highest takes priority. So if they've got it set to 50 and you come here and turn it on, it's going to go on to 100.
Okay, so that'll always be there.
If you have the board set to 50, you turn this off, it's going to go down to the next highest level that it sees, which is going to be the board at 50.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So it'll turn it, if you're 50 back there, it'll turn them off and it'll turn them back on at
Yeah.
50,
And
whatever's set.
And I think because you might have someone back here needing to turn off lights, I think we're going to make this so it overrides it. So this will be all or nothing. I got to kind of play with it and see what we can do. But the big thing is this is going to be an on-off toggle, whereas up there at the booth you'll have the intensity options. Okay, just slightly differently. If you want, I'll show you the other button station, but it's exactly the same thing on the other side of the stage. We kind of, you guys were in here with the AV guy earlier, and he mentioned the bottom half is audio. If you want to slide over here, guys. Sure. The top half is us. For maintenance, any of you guys maintenance?
Yes, yeah.
You're going to like this guy.
Big guy.
You have to do nothing.
Cool.
If something doesn't work, you might check the patch cable, you know, someone didn't come by and pull it out or something, but everything's pretty tight, pretty snug. There's really nothing you need to do. Blue, green, and orange lights is good. That little red guy right there is not so good. This guy's not happy right now. The button stations, they're not doing anything. So that's what I gotta fix. I'm gonna hope to do that tomorrow. Other than that, everything's nicely labeled. If a particular item isn't working, you can play with the cabling, maybe try a different port or something. And IT, this is a basic switch. It doesn't really matter where you plug it in.
Okay.
We just like numbers in order.
Yeah.
OCD. All right, let's slide on around the corner. So this might get a little snug. And there's nothing too horrible in here that you have to remember, study, learn, or take notes on. This is your power for our rack. This is our dimmer rack. All of these modules in here are what control your intensities to bring your house or all of your lights up or down. Some of them are what we call switched. They're like a regular breaker, all on or all off. If you're having problems with a circuit, if you have a light, a fixture that doesn't work, you can come back here and check the physical breaker. If the breaker is popped, the first thing you can do is just turn it back on. If it keeps tripping, when you give it a load, when you turn on a light and it keeps tripping, you can swap out these modules. What we recommend to do is two things. Number one, check and see what kind of module it is. Most of your modules in here are D20AFs. It's just a dimming module. And as long as you find another D20, you can swap them out. In order to swap them out, simply turn off the two breakers that are associated with that module. Find another one, and then just pull it out. It takes a little bit of a yank, and you can swap them out. It might be something in the module that's wrong, as opposed to your circuit. A good rule of thumb, if you are having a problem with your light, start at the cheapest point. This is a couple $100. Depending on the module, this can be $300 to $1,400 for one of these guys. Start with your lights. Make sure it's not just a light bulb. Or maybe the plug came loose or something silly like that. But if nothing else, definitely come back here, swap out the modules to help you figure out if it's one of these guys. Then just push it back in and turn on the breakers. If the module is getting a signal, the lights will light up. Here, for example, you see a red light indicating that it is getting power, and a green light indicating that it is getting a signal. A signal meaning, give me an intensity. So we've got some lights on out there right now. As far as maintenance, there's not too much here you need to do. Pretty much what I just said. If there's a problem with a fixture, you can come back here and swap out modules. The only other thing, and I don't know how dirty this space is going to get. It's a small space, probably not very dirty, but you may want to check these filters. I can't tell you how often at first. I would probably check it every other month and then go from there. If it's not dirty, check it, come back 6 months or so. In order to change the filters, I didn't really show it, but they're just gravity fed. So simply come to the top one, grab the lip, push it up, and the bottom will come right out. The bottom one, you can do the same way, lift it up enough to get the bottom out, or simply pull it all the way up. There is an outside to the filter, to the extent that it's the dirty side. I see a lot of people that go to clean these from the clean side, which means they're sucking the dirt through. Please just take a vacuum cleaner and suck the dirty side out. And if you can't, try to remember which side was the dirty side so we can stick it back in the same way. It's just an extra step so that you don't end up sucking dirt into the modules. If there is something wrong with the dimmer rack, these signal lights up here will flash. If you want, step up a little so you don't get a sunburn. These lights will flash to give you an indication, and you can see them through the door. What you might want to check is just see if anything's popped, or even read the LCD screen to see what it's talking about. For any problems, I'm going to put a sticker up here in a little while, and the sticker will have a phone number on it. It'll tell you where the power is to this rack, and if you have any problems, that phone number goes directly to the ETC company support line, and they're available 24/7. During working hours, you'll be put in a queue. Off hours, they have a 15-minute callback time, so it's pretty quick. During a show, they're always handy. That's the main thing here. I don't think you'll have the problem because of the size of this room, but we want to make sure that nothing's covering this guy. The airflow is supposed to come inside the doors through the slits on the side, go through the modules, through these little vents here, and then out of the top. So the important thing is that we don't block the front of the door or the fan on top. And exactly, and I don't think you'll have that problem. We go to a lot of high schools, and yeah, we have to dig out our console. If the key's not in here, it's no big deal. You don't really need a key. You just need to twist this knob to unlock it. There it goes. Any questions here? I mentioned you've got a couple different type of modules. Most of your modules are D20s. Those are dimming modules. You've got some that are R20s. I know there are a bunch at the bottom, but some of them are R20s. R stands for relay. Those are just on-off breakers. Even some of these are dedicated to be on-off breakers, and we'll talk about LEDs in a moment. LEDs are fun. Others are highly expensive. They're empty cases just to help with the airflow. Sometimes people will keep these out because they obviously don't do anything. They're there for a reason, and that reason is to control your airflow. We want to make sure that the airflow goes through your module. If you take some of these out and forget to put them back in, or for some reason lose them, people do that, I'm not sure how, but if you lose them or misplace them, the airflow will come through the easiest path, and then you're going to overheat. When this guy overheats, your lights go out. So we don't want that. Most likely not a problem. If you see that this is getting dirty, you can always look at these vents. If you need to, just take a vacuum, suck it right down the line. Not a big deal, nothing special you need to do.
Speaking of heat,
Yes,
is that heat coming through this window here?
through this window, yeah.
Is that going to be a problem back here?
No, it shouldn't be. That is going to live in this closet. These guys are going to be closed off in here. We've got a lot of space in here and a vent. If maybe for other reasons, maybe this space out here is going to be used for storage or stage prep of sorts, you might decide to blanket out or get a shade or something in here so that it doesn't feed onto your stage when people are coming in and out.
I think I'll check with our project finance person and ask about that.
Yeah. All right. Some things that you don't necessarily need to know. I already mentioned here's the power for the unit. If this breaker goes off, you can get into this rack if you need to. That's not something that you guys generally need to do. But if you lose power, this is your emergency transfer. This is going to kick on your lights, your emergency lights. Not something you need to know, but since I got all these boxes around me, some people like that extra info. All right, let's head on back out to your stage for now. Any questions? No, pretty simple. It's the back end of our system. Nothing really that you guys need to get into except for maybe maintenance. So the space out here, I mentioned that we have the 2-button station back there. We have a 2-button station at the exact same spot on the other side. As far as your lights, we've got a couple of raceways, or they're also called connector strips. We've got one right, what's your name?
Vic.
And you moved out of the spot, but we've got a connector strip right here above Vic, and these guys have hard power. So you can plug in fixtures directly to these, as opposed to on the grid here, they're just free hanging. So I saw a box of cables. You'll just have to, twofer or connect cables to get to a power source. You have 4 connector strips. Here's one. There's one right inside this curtain, one slightly over the house, and then one over center of house. Some of those are going to be fun to get to. They're not hoisted or anything. They're what we call dead hung. So you'll need a ladder. But once you get stuff focused, that's generally pretty good to go. All right. Now most of these lights are dimmable. They're running through our system. You shouldn't have any problem controlling them. But you guys are ready for the future. And if you look right back here on the wall, this flashy little dude is called a gateway. Most of our system is a Cat5 network system, but for lights, you have to supply what's called DMX. It's a lighting protocol, lighting speak, and this guy gets network communications, and it turns it into DMX, and there are 2 plugs on the bottom so that you can have 2 DMX lines coming out. Maybe you guys decide to put some lights on the floor, some cyc lights or something to light up these pretty things. So you can have them on the floor. Here's your communication if you have LEDs or something like that, and here's your hard power, whether you just need power or whether you need dimmable power depending on the fixture. Have you guys played with LEDs? You don't have any here? Yeah, they're cool, they're fancy. As far as your lights, we'll start with the easy part on that. As far as your lights, you're going to have to get up there physically. You're going to have to use the 4 shutters on the sides to cut them the way you want them. You're going to have to use the can to adjust the focus. Have you guys played with some of that? Does that sound familiar? Oh, I don't.
I have.
You have, okay.
So they're not manual. You have to move each and every one of them.
They're all manual.
I mean, I'm just saying you have to climb to move each and okay.
Yeah. I kind of wish I had one down here, but I haven't seen any spares. But it's just a single button. I'll tell you what, YouTube is a great resource. They've got a lot of cool videos. If I find a light, Don, do you happen to know, do we have any fixtures on the ground? I haven't seen any. Any source 4s or anything?
Nothing on the floor, no.
Okay.
They, the contractors really just hung everything
Right.
and in somewhat logical locations, but
Sure.
there's a lot of stuff up there that's not plugged in.
Sure. Well,
It's really, you know, all those lights are really meant to do a bigger kind of show, which
Sure.
might happen sometimes,
but it's not
but not very often.
Yeah, and it's not a big deal. What we'll do is, in a little bit, I'll get you guys started on the board. I want each one of you to take a turn to do some basics. And while you're doing that, at some point, right there's a ladder. I'll climb up and I'll bring a fixture down. And that way I'll just show you how to focus and how to cut it. So the basic thing here is all of these fixtures. At the front, you see how they're kind of square. There is there's a gel holder in there. You pull the gel holder out, you cut a piece of gel, the color, the size that you need, you stick it in, you put it back up. So it's all manual. With LEDs, you can save yourself all that hassle. On the board, you punch a couple buttons, you've got red, a couple buttons, you've got orange, and so forth. So LEDs are kind of the way to go, especially when they're hard to get to. And again, that's what this guy is for. LEDs take two things. They take power, but then they take logic or communication. And it's the communication that says, bring me up, bring me down, change the color, do whatever fanciness the fixture can do. All right?
I have a
Yes.
question. He said that they're not all connected up though. How do you know which ones are connected and which ones are not?
Well, so here's a connector strip, and all of these lights are connected. Right above you is just the grid, and if you see the cables, well, there's nowhere to connect them to right now. What you need is an extension, a 10-foot, a 5-foot, to get to a connector strip over here or to a connector strip over here. What if we look at this fixture? You see the tail hanging down on that guy? Yeah, that's called it's called a three-pin stage pin. And when I get the fixture out down later, you'll see it more closely.
Okay.
And the sockets, is there one behind you? If we look back here again, you can take a closer look at the socket. You'll see that there are two openings together and one separate on the bottom. So there's really only one way to plug them in, and all of yours are that. And that's the standard fixture type of connector.
But all the three connector bars, they have enough outlets for all the lights we have.
That's what was supplied. If we look here, we have what are called twofers. You plug that into the socket, and now you can take one circuit and control two fixtures. If you take two more twofers, you could control 4 fixtures altogether. So it depends. The designer supplied you with this many lights, which is good to have, is cool to have. But as far as circuits, we're limited to, I believe it's 52 circuits. 54, 53 is house. So what I meant is stage-wise, stage lighting, we have 52 circuits. Sure.
Close enough.
Yeah. So here's the other thing to maybe think about. Because it does take a while to focus these guys, you got to get a ladder. It's going to be a little fun out here. And the spacing is great. I didn't have too much trouble getting to the lights that I got to. what you might consider is take some fixtures and use them for one part of the stage, take others. What I'm kind of thinking is use a mix of lights for one type of setting or show, use another set of lights for a different, and then just plug in the set of lights that you want so you don't have to go up and refocus and redo, and it'll take a little playing to think that through and come up with a plan. But you've got a lot of lights, and you've got a lot of power sources, and you've got the twofers. So with that, you'll be able to do a lot. So as far as the gateways, I wanted to mention we've got two here in the corner. We actually have one hidden under this panel, and I don't have a tool on me, but it's right here on the left-hand side. It's a little, yeah. There's no.
Yeah, we saw it.
I think they're gonna. It was mentioned to maybe put a handle on that. Then again, it's a stage. You don't want someone doing that number during Romeo and Juliet or something. Yeah. Yeah. So as far as the floor, you've got some more sockets in there. You've got some more power source and gateways over here. This is for the future when you start getting into LEDs or moving lights or something like that. So we want to have the same up here on your raceways or connector strips. And if you guys want to slide over here, at the ends of each one of your connector strips, you have a gateway up there as well. And it's just to the left edge of this sight light on the far left. You can kind of see a green flashing light. And it's kind of hard to see, but you can see two ports under it. Those are DMX out ports.
And how many,
So you've got 4 connector strips. There's one on each end. I believe these 2, they're over on this end, and those 2, they're on the other end. But again, 5 foot, 10 foot, 20, 50 foot DMX cables you can get all the way across. All right. If you guys want to take a look at that 2-button station back there, it's the same as we saw over here. And we're ready to go. Any questions about the basic space out here? Okay. I will mention real quick, our house lights, you can see they're more of a tan color. We have work lights back here. These are fluorescents, and we're going to make these work lights, stage lights, on one button, and the house lights are going to be on the other button. All right.
What operates the ones on the side?
They're on a circuit on our system. I'm not familiar what circuit it is just yet, but they'll be usable by our board.
Along with the house lights.
And we can put them on the house lights. Yes, very good. What's that?
Or they could be hooked up to the LEDs.
Right. I'll program them in so the house lights will turn those on as well as the floor lighting and chair lighting. All right. Let's slide on up to the booth. All right, so this is the Ion light board. We'll just kind of do a quick overview of the board itself, the layout. And some people, I've got a printout of of what the face looks like. If you guys wanted to make notes on that and point to the button or something of that nature, feel free to take one. There are a lot of buttons here. Don't get too scared of that. It'll be pretty easy. So
It's the same one, it's just another basic.
right, it's the same. So here's your basic power button here. The power button is simply to boot on or turn on the board. Below it is a USB port. We take out the little cap. There's your port. Now, because of its orientation, because it's straight up, we provide the cap, and we prefer you keep it on there just because if dust gets in there, it could eliminate that USB port. What is it for? Any guesses? Safety.
With its
computer, right? Essentially, that's what this is a fancy computer with a sweet keyboard and screens and stuff, but it's mainly for backups. Once you create a show, you start creating something fancy and spend a lot of time on it. If something happens to the board, power outage, brownout or something, you want to make sure and be able to swap in a different board and, you know, get right back to work. Below that, we have your blackout and your Grandmaster fader. Now, whatever you're telling the board to do, the blackout button says no. So if we hit that, I just cut off the board. If you guys remember the Spider-Man show, the guy fell off the stage, wasn't so good. They hit the blackout button, because, right? So the blackout button cuts everything, any communication going out from the board. The Grandmaster is similar, but the Grandmaster is a fader. You can ease this guy down, and it'll give it a percentage. I'll show you that again here in a moment. The house lights at the moment are not dimmable. That's all part of this issue in the back I got to fix. But once that and stage lights are dimmable, the Grandmaster will work on a percentage basis. And if you look up here in the corner, it'll tell you that the Grandmaster is on and what percent. So if you're wondering why can't I get my lights full on, well, that pencil you dropped earlier bumped the fader down. I've seen sillier stuff happen. Same with the blackout button. If you hit it, it'll tell you up here, uh-oh. And notice the color, red is not good. So red is generally a heads up. We're going to get into these guys later. We've got the stop and go button, we've got the fader pair, and we've got the load button. When we talk about setting up a show and cues and stuff like that, that's when we get into those. These three larger pads down here, those are what we're going to use as we go through the training to select channels, to select intensities, and make our lights come on. These are special function keys here, and these allow you to do fun things like label your LCD screen. If you notice here on the bottom, I've created 3 submasters, these green lights, and I've gone ahead and labeled them so that you know one's for work lights, one's for house lights, one's for booth. Thank you. The booth light, by the way, if we get rid of this and this, the booth light is just to give you some lighting back here. You can also get a gooseneck lamp. It's called a little light. It's a specific lamp that comes across, has a bendable head on it, so that you can do that as opposed to the big overhead lights. As a matter of fact, he's got 2 on the top of his AV panel there. So we'll just ramp these guys back up so we can see. So special function lights allow you, special function buttons allow you to label and play with things. We're going to go through a lot of these buttons throughout the day. Here are some fun keys, and they're simply labeled S1 through 6. They're called soft keys. Any idea what soft keys do? Anything and everything. It all depends on what screen you're in. It depends on what you're trying to do. You'll have a variety of functions there, and they'll be listed on your LCD screen. They'll also be listed down here on the bottom right-hand corner of your monitor. And you notice here we have S1 through S6. And again, depending on where you are, it'll have different options. And we'll see that. One of the first places we're actually going to start the hands-on training is going to be over here with these buttons. These are our navigation and display buttons. They're going to allow you to change your focus from screen to screen, move up and down, filter out what you're looking at, and stuff like that. This guy over here is our fader wing. You've got up to 40 faders that you can program however you want. For example, a lot of times people will do spotlights. If you want a certain spot on the stage, Romeo over here, Juliet over there, you can put that on faders. It's common to put house lights, general lighting, at the end. So that's what I did as a preliminary thing. In between, if you want different washes, if you want different you know, face lighting as opposed to overhead lighting or backlighting, you can program those in to do what you want. And we're going to cover all that. All right, everybody okay? Not too horrible at this point. Let's take a quick look at the screens. We start up with some very complicated information over here. Is simply the time. The name of your show will show up here. And then over here, you've got a couple fancy buttons that allow you to change what's on the screen. And we'll cover that as we go. This first screen here that we're looking at, this is called your live channel screen. All these chiclet things, these tombstone items here, they represent your fixtures. And you guys have what's called a one-to-one patch. So literally number 1 here should match number 1, which happens to be that first plug on the right-hand side of that connector strip. So why don't we try that? If you want, down here at the numbers, we're going to turn on a light. So the first thing we want to do is simply tell it which light. We'll go ahead and type in 1. And then we want to give it an intensity. So at the bottom right there, click at.